Hey guys, Sammy Moniz here from Feeding the Frasers. Today we are making a baked chicken pot pie. I love this recipe because not only is it super simple to put together, but you can really be creative in this. We're gonna show you one way, but the best part is if you've cooked a chicken earlier in the week, you can use some of that. If you've got some leftover veggies hanging out from last night's dinner, you can throw those in as well. So let's get started. We're gonna take our butter into the pan and melt that down. And then we're gonna sweat out our onion and our celery, and we're gonna make a bit of a roux. So today we're using chicken stock. If you've got a chicken gravy or a turkey gravy on hand that you've either made or you find some high quality stuff in the grocery store, feel free to use that. Today we're gonna show you how to thicken up just a basic chicken stock. Okay, butter's melted. We're gonna add in onions and celery. And we're gonna let these sweat out 3 to 5 minutes. We're looking for a translucent onion, so we don't want any browning happening, just so that the vegetables themselves cook down and get a little soft. We've got a nice little sizzle in the pan. Want to keep moving that around so that we don't get any brown, burnt little bits. All right, so we've got our onions and our celery cooking down, and then we're gonna take some flour here, and we're gonna start to make a roux. Remember I said we're working with just chicken stock today, so if you've got gravy, it's already gonna be thick, which is great. Our chicken stock is a little thinner, so we just wanna make sure we thicken it up. Get this all combined, and we're gonna cook it 2 to 3 minutes just to help cook out that flour. Already coming together, getting nice and thick, mixing with that melted butter. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start to add our chicken stock. We're gonna slowly add it at a little bit at a time, mix it up, make sure all that flour is incorporated before we get the bulk of our chicken stock in there. Starting to bubble a little bit, so we'll add some more. Mix that in. It's already starting to smell good. A recipe like this reminds me of weekends at home with mom and dad. At this point, we can add the rest of the chicken stock in that we need. And we're good to go. Make sure it's all incorporated once again before we add anything else. All right, we've got our heavy cream here. And a little bit of dry sherry. In here we've got some thyme and some pork and poultry Traeger spices. Gonna add those in, get them all incorporated into our cream and chicken stock base. And then now it's time to add our veggies here. These were just simply frozen veggies that we allowed to come to room temperature while we got all the rest of our ingredients together. Super simple. Like I said before, you can use any vegetables that you've maybe cooked up the night before and add in there. And then our cooked chicken. Once we get this all mixed in, we're gonna let it cook maybe 2 minutes just to combine all the flavors. We're gonna taste it and then season with a little bit of salt and pepper if we need. It's gonna continue to cook once we get that pie crust on top and get it into the Traeger. Okay, the best part of any recipe is tasting along the way. We always want to taste as we go because we've got pre-cooked chicken that, whether it was boiled, maybe there's no spices in it, or you roasted it and it had a little bit of its own flavor, or we used just a simple chicken stock today, but if you used a gravy from pan drippings from another recipe that you've already seasoned, we don't want to double up on the seasoning if we don't have to. So we season as we go, we taste along the way. Plus, those are chef snacks. All right, let's get this loaded into our cast iron. Make sure it's all evenly spread out along the bottom. The last bit of this recipe before we tuck it in to cook on the Traeger is we're gonna top it with a puff pastry dough. We've got here a thawed sheet of puff pastry. We're gonna add a little bit of flour here to our chopping block. And we're gonna use a rolling pin to just thin it out a little bit. As is, it's a little thick and will take a bit longer than we want to cook and give us a nice crispy top to this delicious chicken pot pie. I also put a little bit of flour on top, and then we'll flour our rolling pin as well, just so it doesn't stick. I always start from the center and pull to the edges. Looking for a nice, even layer of puff pastry. All right, we're gonna transfer this to the top and then we'll cut off some excess. You can use a knife, or I've got some kitchen scissors here to just cut off these corners. I like to leave a little bit hanging over, and then we'll kind of crimp them into the cast iron to create a little edge of a crust. Once again, it doesn't need to be pretty. We're gonna tuck it in, cover it with an egg wash, and bake it up. It's starting to look like a pie. Okay, the last little bit here, we're gonna take this egg that we've got, we're gonna whisk it up, and then wash the top of our pie crust with it. This is what helps give a nice golden brown top to your pie. Make sure you get those little corner bits as well, all of the edges, so that they brown nice and evenly. All right, that is looking good. Last little bit we're gonna do is we're gonna take this fork and just make a handful of little holes in our pie crust so that we can let some of that steam release while it's cooking. We've got the Traeger preheated to 400, and this pie is gonna sit on there for about 30 minutes. We'll check in. The inside of our pie is already cooked, so really what we're focusing on is just cooking that beautiful crust on top. Let's get this on the grill. All right, we've got our grill set to 400. We've got hickory pellets in the hopper. Now it's time to put this on the grill and let it sleep for about 30 minutes. We're gonna come back and check it, but like I said, we're only worried about that top crust cooking. Everything else on the inside is already ready to go. All right, it's been 30 minutes, it's time to check. Once again, we're looking for a nice golden crust, and that's when we'll know it's done. Ooh. Look at what we have here. A nice golden crust. We're gonna get this plated up and serve up some dinner. Got that nice crusty top and some delicious filling. Make sure you get all the good bits in that bite. Gotta get a bite of the crust and all the goodness. This is awesome. the best part about a recipe like this is you can use leftover ingredients, leftover chicken, leftover vegetables, whatever you have in the house, cover it with some puff pastry, and you've got yourself a chicken pot pie. For this recipe and many more, be sure to check out traegergrills.com/recipes or download the app.